Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Indigenous Wisdom for the Earth series. I am Tara. I am with the Network Relations Department of Tree Sisters and the host of the series. I'm here with my colleague, Susie Martineau, and she heads our Alliance and Education Department. And we have some very special guests today, Marianne Sebastian and Mavia Griffiths of Free Voice is the English translation. I'm going to try to say it, Voix Libres. And I'm so grateful for you both coming here. Just the volume of work. You've been working for 30 years in this field. It says you've helped over 2 million people. It's amazing, and there's so much to cover. I really like to turn it over to you and let you get us started with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll be introducing Marianne Sebastian today, who's the founder of Voix Libres and president. She started the work of Voix Libres over 25 years ago, almost 30 years now. And her humanitarian commitment has really been recognized and acknowledged through many different numerous prizes. For instance, there was the Women Entrepreneur of the Year in 2007, and most lately, the International Prize for Human Rights in 2017. Voix Libres has also been classified 58th NGO of the world based on criteria of impact, innovativeness, and durability. Marianne has a training in the different fields of social justice, social sciences, pedagogy, literature, and also in business management. And she is a singer and a therapist as well. And this relates to the name of the NGO as well, and the deeper kind of understanding that we have of what development is and how it should go from the inside to the outside. So I don't know if you want to say any words now or later.
No. I can say that my commitment is total, because for me, my hope was that the most poor are directing their projects. You know, I don't like a top-down management in an NGO, and I was so fond of the children that today we can say that we have 90% of children and women that are chiefs of their projects. So it's a guarantee of transparency, empowerment of the women. And I think they are suffering so much, you know, in Bolivia where we are, 70% of women are suffering, abused,
and violence.
And it's very difficult, but it's the same thematic, the same problem for the trees, you know. And I'm very impressed to see that little by little, only women live this empowerment and are capable to direct their project. And the main quality of women is to manage the things, you know. And it's a pity they don't are managing the politics and economics, because they are very good for this, but men not. We know, and all these feminine values. Avoid wars, avoid conflicts, and we live this harmony in Bolivia, in Voix Libres now, because we have 90% of children that were working in human conditions that are today lawyers. They are carpentries. They have many talents to help the other one, and their passion is to help, because they are not saved if they don't help, you know.
And I think it's important to say that over 50% of the people working in Voix Libres in the foundation in Bolivia, who are all Bolivians, over 50% of them are actually kids that were helped at one point by the foundation and that decided to come back to the foundation because they know and they understand what it means to commit to those actions, and they work with quite amazing strength to keep the project going. So I don't know, is it okay if I share my screen for a second? Yeah?
Yes, please. Thank you so much. I mean, some of the principles you have are so similar to our beliefs and principles. It's just such a privilege to speak with you today.
Thank you so much for having us. Can you see everything?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, perfect. So like we've kind of started saying, Voix Libres we're trying to frame it in a way of looking at a new model for a caring society, where caring for women and the most vulnerable people is caring for the planet in itself, because we see it as entirely connected. Like I was saying a bit before, social and economic development cannot be based on something else than inside development of the people themselves. If we want to stop those links of dependence and neocolonialism that have been so strong, especially in a country like Bolivia. So in 25 years, we've had over 2 million beneficiaries in Bolivia, over 125,000 beneficiaries of microcredits. We work a lot with that. I'll come back to it later. Over 240 agreements with local institutions, 22 community centers, 38 solidarity companies, and 20 containers to Europe for handcraft and quinoa exportation. So every year we have all the women that have worked, that have come out of violence, of situation of abuse and violence, do microcredits, and then have micro enterprises, which we kind of support them by taking some of their products, bringing it to Europe, selling them here, and then sending back the benefit. So like we were saying before, we've been recognized for criteria of impact, innovation, sustainability, and really for having this commitment at all times and seeing it as a kind of a balanced business model where it's not about exploitation. Like you were saying, Susie, before, Bolivia has a very, very difficult and hard history of mining. Since the era of colonization, it says that in the mines of Potosí, there are about 8 million deaths in 4 centuries of colonization. This is at 4,500 meters of altitude, and the conditions there are just unbelievable. The families live on that mountain that you see there on the left side. They actually live in small, like, concrete bunkers. The kids can't go to school, it's too far, it's really dangerous, so they end up going to the mines with the parents. And Marianne Sebastien, when she started the project of Voix Libres, she actually lived in the mines with the kids and the families for 4 years. So she has experienced all of this on a very personal level. So we have numerous different kinds of programs that really try and tackle the different issues. I mean, it's so wide, it goes on to so many different levels that you'll see it covers a lot of different things. So basically, we have a main axis on education and trainings. We have 2 cities of goodness, that's the way we call them. It's basically big houses where we actually welcome kids that are either orphans or have, for most of them, I think we have 10 of them now in Cochabamba, that have actually seen the feminicide of their mothers, so the killing of the mothers by their father. It's absolutely traumatic situations. We have these big houses that have a model, like a family model, where all the kids live together. The people looking after them have a model of like parenting. So it's like mothers, and they really mix up this kind of feeling of being at home. We also have therapists, different educational personnel. And then we also have different trainings for them in those houses. So they go to school, but then they can also have like practical training in like carpentry, like different kind of work. We have the Robertito School, which is what Marianne started at the very beginning in the mines. This was a nursery for kids of the mines to be able to go to school instead of the mines. And now it's turned into a school that goes from primary and secondary school. It's still open, kids go there every day. And this is the only way for them to avoid working in the mines. We also have boarding schools in La Paz and Potosí. One of the big problem also with the kids is that they can't go home and go back to school in one day because they live too far away. So we have different little boarding schools where they can follow up their studies there. Then we have different programs with like library buses, football schools. And then we also give scholarships and school supplies to the kids of different vulnerable situations. We also have numerous different kinds of health programs, especially for women. So we have emergency care, especially like we were saying, 70% of women are victim of abuse. And it said that it's 85% of children. So we have emergency care, family planning, contraception, prevention. We also have different workshops and microcredits that lead to the manufacturing of medicine and traditional medicine. We really try to connect back to those values as well that have been lost through different kind of dynamics of globalization. And recently we've had a few programs for dental care and dental clinics. This is one of our last big projects. I mean, it's ongoing. It's been really revolutionary. It's called the Observatory of Justice. So there's so many cases of feminicides and violent abuse against women in Bolivia. It's one of the highest rates in South America, after like, if you count Mexico and like Latin America as well. They basically end up always being dependent on their abuser because they're not financially independent. The legal system is so corrupted that they're not able to follow up with their actual procedure. And then they end up by abandoning all charges if they, and usually the same time or the third time they get killed by the same abuser. So we've been working with these women through different ways, but then we realized we needed a way of having a stable, focused Observatory of Justice. So it's offices that we have in the center of Cochabamba, one of the main cities. It's in front of the trials and all the tribunal. And this is a way for us to have different lawyers that are there, that follow up the cases, that when women come and need surgery, when it was really like really violent situation, and then we also help them get sometimes microcredits or different trainings for them to get out of that situation of violence and start a new life. We've been doing also a lot of trainings to actually the police and the army, which is the two pictures.
National police.
Yeah, the national police and the army.
And also army.
Yeah, and the army, to do violence prevention with men and people who I mean, detain the power and who keep you know, recreating those power dynamics. So this has been quite a huge project. We also have a lot of communication. This in the middle in the picture is Mercedes Cortez. She's our coordinator in Bolivia. She grew up in the prisons with her father, and Marianne met her there when she was a kid. She was able to get out of that situation and go to law school thanks to Voix Libres and her own education. And then she came back and now she's the national coordinator and one of the most important lawyers in Bolivia. She's fighting for women's justice. So through all the data that we accumulate through this Observatory of Justice and the different cases, we use it a lot for communication, so mass media, violence prevention through radio, televisions. It really helps the visibility of Voix Libres, Voix Libres, but also the creation of a local network of support.
Yes.
Then on the other side, so within the Observatory of Justice, we have this collective called the Women of Fire, who are basically these women who come together and fight the abuse led by men. On the other side, we also work with men. This is called Men of Peace. So this is the first therapeutic center in Bolivia for violent men and delinquents. We work with the legal justice department where when some with murderers, yeah, and like when some of these violent men or murderers have committed crimes, they have a choice between going to prison or going through therapy with our own center. This is quite revolutionary over there, and it's been, like I said, recognized by the Court of Justice. And it's been quite an amazing path as well of seeing for these men to actually understand the violence they were perpetrating and themselves stopping it, and then themselves doing the prevention to other men or other communities.
Il faut dire qu'on a eu 1900 hommes de paix l'année passée, il n'y a que 3 récidives. Donc ils ont quitté le meurtre et la délinquance.
So last year, Marianne was saying that there were 1,900 men that really did the whole therapy, and of all these men, only 3 went back to violence, like were cases that had to go back to like trials. So the results are really amazing, and we use a lot of different alternative therapies. You can see them like doing meditation, a lot of like trust groups, discussions, and then they get like a diploma of like having gone through this therapy till the end.
Ils demandent pardon, s'il vous plaît. Ils demandent pardon et transforment la croyance ancestrale sur la violence.
Yeah, it's a real transformation of the understanding of violence, and at the end they really ask for forgiveness, and for most of them they actually even manage to like go back to their family and start a new beginning with this new understanding of what violence is.
On leur apprend à langer les bébés et à faire la cuisine.
Yeah, and we teach them to cook and look after the kids and just change those gender norms to the very core of where it's all born. Then this is what I was kind of talking about before with the microcredits and the micro enterprises. This is a very big part of Voix Libres. This is a way, like I was saying, of bringing out these women that are in a situation of dependency of their abuses or extreme poverty, or working in the mines, etc. And also we work a lot with women of the landfills, so working in like trash collection. They're not working for any company, they do it themselves, they're not protected, it's terrible conditions, they end up being in contact with toxic materials. It's a really, really vulnerable situation to be in. So we go to these places, all our coordinators and all the people working for us are Bolivians that know how to relate to these women. And like you see here, we give them some microcredits, which is a microcredit scheme that's solidary, which means that there's no interest on the microcredit. They repay it once they can, and then they can get a second one and a third one, and there's these different loops. And themselves, as a way of repaying for it, they go and look for other women that are vulnerable. They create that kind of path of, you know, the trust into actually it is possible to change, it is possible to get out of this. And there's different ways of them to through solidarity, to pay back as well the microcredits. So this then leads to them, for most, creating micro enterprises. It can be very small, to just like different kind of food markets, but then some of them also, a lot of them do like sewing and like art crafts, which they sell in markets. So, and also planting trees and starting different agricultural projects. Also quinoa, which we've had quite a lot. So for them to re-understand as well that their own connection to their earth after colonization and globalization is something that is taking also time. And quinoa, for instance, is a sacred seed that, you know, is really beautiful in the way that it's very rich in vitamins and very helpful for them, but they actually don't eat it most of the time. So it's a whole process of understanding how they can relate back to what is in their own ground and going back to those kinds of agriculture. So that's been a whole process as well. So we also have a part of Voix Libres that has extended since a few years now, maybe 5 years, in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in the eastern side, which is called Kivu, near the border with Rwanda. This place has seen numerous terrifying disasters in terms of human capital. It's been really terrible. Women have been victim of, we call it a genocide. Over 1,000 women have been raped and killed. Rape is the new way of leading wars and like a new arm of war. So it's a very, very difficult area to be working in. Most organizations don't even bother because it's too dangerous, and none of the projects actually lead to anything because the whole situation in the state, everything is really complex. We've managed to actually work with an organization, a local organization that is in, you should take them, a local organization of nurses that actually work there, that are very close to the people. So we've actually collaborated with them. So they're called AFIAFEV. And we've worked with many different programs, again, similar to what we've done in Bolivia, microcredit loans, trying to get children into schools, training for women and young people. We've actually gotten children in foster homes. We've done a lot of disaster assistance as well, because over there it's very much in the immediate kind of crisis. So they've had huge fires, they've had like the pandemics as well, they've had Ebola, they've had many different very, very violent situations. And we've constructed a new refuge, like a welcome house that was supposed to be just a small thing and ended up being a very big place now where women can go, children can go to school. So it's a wider project that's developing there in collaboration with AFIAFEV.
Just about microcredits, I would think. About microcredits, they must give back in solidarity, you know, because they receive some money. And I was very impressed because last Sunday I was at the telephone, what are you doing to give back something? And imagine these women in total misery. They have 10 children in the little house, and they take an enfant soldat, a soldier child in their home, or a child of the street more. So they have one child more just to be, have so much gratitude that we don't forgive them, you know. So it's, yes, so it's impressive, the solidarity of women, and they are, each Sunday they are together, there are 900 women in a place singing now and dancing and imagining what they can do to survive, you know, and they can, and they can.
Yeah, it's important to know that Marraine Sébastien is always in touch with everyone, whether it's in Bolivia or in the DRC. Like we WhatsApp call all the time. We're always in touch with what they need. So we're a very small team in Geneva. We're only 2 or 3 people working here. They're basically giving us what the projects are, and we do a bit of the fundraising here and dealing with the projects. But it's all led by them.
But one thing important, for me, there is no social and economic progress without inner work, you know. And you know this because you are women. And so it's impressive to see these women when they are together, that they organize theater, so they can live another time and have the role of the abuser and shout and deliver the good words, you know, to empty them of this traumatism, and also de se laver à l'intérieur, to wash themselves from the shame that the society gives to them, you know. And it's very important that they can sing, dance, and so they have the strength to help the other one. And it's this multiplication that is nice. Now we have given two trees to each one from des arbres fruitiers,
like fruit trees.
Fruit trees, and they have no space, but they have space because with the contamination of the hope, you know, they look for a little space in their favelas, comment tu dis?
In the little houses that they, yeah.
And so they are so happy now to have fruits, and that each one will transmit to the other one, you know.
So now if we look at more of what Voix Libres has actually done with the environment more directly, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit already. But like I was saying, there's this huge attempt to really reintroduce the ancestral quinoa. So like I was saying, through the microcredits, like farmers produce huge hectares now of quinoa, and the way of like for them to sell it in Bolivia, but also to export it in different places has been really huge. Yeah, and all of Geneva has been eating our quinoa. The hospitals have been buying it, the biggest supermarkets, cafes, restaurants. So we've had a lot of like collaborations with different entities because they know that the benefits goes back to a very strong action, and it is ethical, organic, and yeah, so it's been a beautiful way of also making their work valued.
And because of the exportation, they have to take a new confidence that they have a good product, and the quinoa is the best aliment of the world, you know. But before they didn't want to eat because the Spanish had burnt this cereal, and they thought it was just Indian food, you know. But now they are proud to be Indian, and to have good products, and to have la sagesse de cultiver.
The wisdom, yeah, of harvesting this ancestral seed, yeah. So that has been one of the main attempts. Then, like we were saying, reforestation in the mines. So on this, it's at 4,000 meters of altitude, more or less, up to almost 5,000. It's extremely hard conditions. But the kids and the women are all really eager to have it more livable again, this area, and trying to reforest their own environment, because it's such a harsh way of living. It's only stones. They're in touch with a lot of toxic chemicals as well all the time, especially working in the mines. The water's contaminated. So it's a real process of regenerating the earth as well. Something really quite big that Voix Libres has been working on for almost the very beginning is called the Walipinas. They're a new way of having a semi-underground greenhouse. So you dug into the earth to make the greenhouse. This allows the heat of the ground to actually keep the vegetables and the ground warm, even at 4,000 meters of altitude, which you can imagine makes it very difficult to have a vegetable patch. So this really allows, so the roof is plastic, so this allows the sun to hit in, but then instead of having thick walls, you're using the heat of the ground to keep the heat inside. And this has been amazing. There's over 4 vegetable harvests per year. Yes. And yeah, it's all done also by, so in the school, like the Robertito School, the school in the mines, they actually have their own as well. And so we try to develop that in different places, especially in high altitude.
And we have done a book of construction. So if you need it for people that are lacking of autonomy, we can send it. And it's very important, 60 pages. It was a big research, you know, but it's fantastic to see that in the Walipina, you have 25 degrees Celsius, but outside you have less 20, and so people are dying of cold, and afterwards they can have just like a house where you have all vegetables and 4 harvests per year.
Yeah. And then again, like I was saying before, we have the cities of goodness, which are throughout Bolivia, where we have the kids that have been victim of abuse or have lost their parents in different really difficult situations. And with the kids, we really try to have that approach of them connecting to their own ground, to agriculture, to the environment they're in. So we've had quite a few different ways of for them to like plant trees, whether it was around the mines of Potosí, around Cochabamba, and around La Paz as well. So each child has planted about 3 trees, and we have different campaigns like that where they go out for like a weekend or something, and they go different places and have trees.
Yes, I would like to speak about the courage of our teams, because you are working in places where neither the police has the courage to go, because it's very dangerous, you know, to live in the street, to live in the mines with all drunken men. And what is nice to see is that this courage is now in the women that have also the courage to begin to do things that everybody says it's not possible. To have trees in the garbage. It's not possible to have trees in Lake Titicaca. It's not possible to have trees in the mines. In all regions we have trees now. So it's not a top-down direction, you know. It's just to give the confidence without sans pensée fermée, sans croyance finie, sans croyance
without defined
limitée.
Thoughts or limited thoughts, and like opening up.
Everybody told us some months ago, no, in the garbage you can't because of the contamination. But what is the key? The key is this courage and this love for trees, because our education is just to live with the trees like with a person. And you see, for example, a little girl told us, but my tree is called Alicia, like me. So each child has a love affair with this tree, and when they plant with love, even in the garbage, it's not dying, you know. And they are dancing around with the rights of indigenous rights, you know. And I think this relation of love with the trees are the mirror of the intuition of the children and the women that have suffered, you know, because they know they can't touch a bad way of like a functionary comme un fonctionnaire, tu vois? But it's really sacred way, you know.
So this is our next project for 2021 that we're already starting now. Basically, we want to have a much bigger tree planting initiative throughout Bolivia and the DRC. So basically the objectives would be for Bolivia of planting at least 6,000 trees, and also having a lot of training in planting with the women and the youth that are coming out of school now, in agriculture, biological agriculture, creation of different tree nurseries, and also having young people, over thousands of young people and women each plant 3 trees. We would also, like Marianne was saying, really also integrate this tree planting in abandoned areas, in areas that don't seem like it needs it, because obviously this is the places where the most vulnerable people are as well. So around the garbage dumps where the families actually live, around the mines. Then we would keep on going with the microcredit interest-free programs and trainings for the micro enterprises as well. In Kivu, the DRC, similar, we would have the planting of the trees, around 4,000, training in agriculture. About 800 women will plant 5 fruit trees. Then we also work a lot with Artemisia and Moringa, which is medicinal plants that grow very well. I mean, Artemisia is against, I don't know if you've heard of it, but paludism, like for malaria. It's extremely helpful, and it really helps your immune system. It also helps against mal de Chaga. I don't know how you say that in English. It's an illness that you have also in higher altitude. It's for the heart disease. And Moringa is mostly in the African regions that help on many different levels for health. So we really encourage that as well. So many of the buying of the plants would be on this medical side as well. And then again, microcredits for women and the youth. So that is what we're looking into for the beginning of next year.
But we have a good news, because we are working with avec toutes les mairies,
with all the communes here in Geneva.
All the communes in in Bolivia.
In Bolivia.
Also, and in Bolivia we have like 50 communes that are working a lot with us, because we send all children to school with we give material for them,
school supplies,
because they have nothing. And we are beginning to work with all the children of the schools. We don't want to work with the politician, but with the teachers and the school. So we hope that we have like 10,000 children, 10,000 children that can each one plant three tree, fruit tree. And also the army and the police. We say, okay, we transform you from murderer to men of peace, but you must plant 3 trees. So all your child, and so it's a deal we are doing, that you can't be nearer of your own nature if you don't transform the exterior nature. And they are very sensible to this, because they can speak to the tree, they can understand a new language. And it was also my experience, because when I had period very difficult and I was with so much misery in the world, I had oaks where I was living, and I was observing a lot, and I was protected by these old oaks. And I was discovering that I can observe 100 different animals that were around the oaks and it's very impressive to see that you think you are alone, but you have just one tree and you have so many spirits that are here and so many answers in your life,
So thank you very much. I mean, that is it in terms of the presentation. I don't know if you have any questions or anything you'd like us to cover more deeply.
There's so much. There's so many questions. I'm sure Susie and I probably have like a bazillion questions for you. It's just, for me, the first thing that struck me is just the sheer level of how many different programs that you have going, where you're helping the school children and you're teaching them, and then you have medical health, access for people. You're helping the women with justice for abuse cases. You're helping transform the men. I guess I'm kind of curious, how did you get to, I mean, one, it sounds like a program that would be wonderful to spread in many other places and reenact. Well, how did you go? How did it start? Where did it begin? And how were you able to get to this point where that you're doing so many things and so many people and helping them is just amazing?
But it's amazing because it's just like a family, because I've lived there 20 years. So I know everyone. And if we have 100 employees today, they're not employees. They're just my sisters, they are my children. And each day I'm at the phone and with avec le haut-parleur,
With the speaker?
with the speaker, everybody knows this, and we have meeting with them, and we know each day which new news they have, and we are feeling we're not working like normally we work in NGO, because we don't know what we are doing, because each day gives the sense of the present and the urgence of the present. So it's changing, but it's true, because today, for example, we have young people that must go away from our center of goodness, and all are very big preoccupation, but we're inventing solutions, and we are opening a new house, but with the help of everybody, and it's a community construction, permanent.
I love how the program just kind of helps grow itself. It sounds like the children who go through the school end up, and now you said, in leadership positions throughout different programs that you offer, and that just is such a beautiful thing. How did it begin? What did you just go? Were you there and you saw what was going on? You just said, I have to do something about this, and you just. What's the beginning?
But yes, I was in the. I met a man that wanted to go, and I was consultant in development also, and he told me, "Come, please help me, because I'm in the mountains." And just I asked one thing, but they are Indian, and they told yes. So I come, and without reflecting, I went there. But it was a normal project of a carpentry where there is no wood, no carpenters, So, but I stayed 1 month with very much passion, but I was very, very impressed to meet all the children in the mines. I saw children die. It was terrible. But 5 minutes because going, a priest came and he saw me and said, "You stay here, please. I want to show, because I helped 50,000 children to go to school." And I stay with this man, fantastic, Padre Santiago. 10 years I stay with him, and he showed me everything. And I came back here, and I sent my little money to him for begin new works. And 6 months afterwards, he died. But the night where he died, before dying, he went to Potosi. He sent me all the projects. He came back to his church, and he died. So it was just Voix Libres came from the sky, if you want, without my volunteer, without. I don't want anything. Just I answer. I look solution each day. We can say that we have really solution against misery, against violence, against badness, against corruption also, against injustice, because I am a woman like you, and I don't support the world of the men, because you have demonstrated that we go to the war, we go to the violence, and they have not succeeded. Now it's a moment through the nature and through the children and the women to show a new type of society. And why have we so many programs? Because we are global. We help people in the globality. So we are accomplishing the 17 ODD objective of
Sustainable Development Goals.
Because we are looking inside, outside the nature, how to connect to oneself, how to express the emotions, how to be in the heart, how to express all this, how to have a new conscious, and all the body and all the mind, and the spirit is working, is together to be in unity and to meet you.
Yes, that's true. Everything does seem to kind of flow and come about as it should. And I know with Tree Sisters, we ourselves, we have this whole area of our mission that is about inner transformation, because the inner transformation gives you the confidence and the ability to go help the planet and to help others. We have it, it's the inner journey of awakening. But I noticed on your website that you were speaking about that as well. And I also saw that you have like the singing and dancing. And I think that's such an important part to healing an individual. I'd love to know a little bit more about the inner work in the singing and dancing.
But I have two children myself. I have a million of children, but I have two children. And my son is born deaf. So, you know, I was 15 years in the silence with him, not in the silence with the world, but in the silence, I was listening to my inner senses. And also I developed techniques that help people to express really a true voice. And he speaks very well. My son today, he's architect, and I didn't believe everything we are speaking about the deaf people, because it's not true. We have no limits, and this is my experience, you know, for all the children that are mute and deaf when they are in the mines because they are shocked and they don't say one. But if they have not expressed all the truth, all the suffering, they could not be free, you know. That's why it's free voices.
Mm-hmm.
That is so beautiful. I love that.
There's a lot of therapy through singing. Even I mean, of course, so it started with her son, but then it developed into something broader. So used with the children and the women, especially, I mean, from really deep sufferings. Of these techniques of like singing are actually really brought up in a therapeutical way, and she's been doing it here as well in Switzerland, in France, in many different places, to liberate your own voice. So this is really I think it's central to Voix Libres, to the whole external development, but through this actually liberating of trauma through singing and this expression of self. So this is a very big theme.
Parce qu'une fois qu'on l'a chanté un problème, il n'y a plus dedans.
She says that once you start singing the problem or the issue, it's not inside anymore, it's outside, and then you're able to deal with it. So there's this whole notion of like bringing everything out, and so that's definitely part of it.
Mais on peut faire formation pour ensemble tous, je la si elles veulent.
She's saying that we could do a course all together. She could give you all a course online, or
oh boy, hey, I might contact you about that. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I know the story you mentioned about the girl who planted her tree and was singing and dancing with that. That was moving me to tears. It's just so beautiful that you're doing that work, and the children are planting trees, and they're taking this, you know, area that's just all dust and dirt and making it into a living, breathing place. And yeah, I know Susie has questions, so I'll go ahead and let Susie ask some of those questions now.
Yeah, well, I'm nervous when I start speaking because it's so many times when you've been both speaking, I felt so much emotion that I'm nervous that when I start speaking, I'm just going to cry. Yeah, I am so grateful for the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful for the template that it creates to show that it is possible, and also practically how, you know. So it's so funny that you say that you're by Lake Titicaca.
Yes.
In Bolivia, because I was with my ash tree yesterday and I heard the words Lake Titicaca and I was like, okay.
So beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know, and now feeling today the sort of, you know, for how many years I've been researching the Congo and the impacts of mining globally. And the kind of gold rush, and the way that the ecological devastation created by mining, excess mining, comes hand in hand with human rights abuses every time, apparently. And so to hear a medicine for that ill, and to hear that you're able to support those children to shift what has silted up in their systems on top of their courage, and to use the voice to move and to access into their it's just incredibly moving. So I do have a million questions, but it's really hard to so I've got a couple of questions. I'll try and sort of focus. because I think the templates that you have created with the book, with regards to the greenhouse,
Yes.
but also with the song, the work with the songs, and the work, also the techniques for planting in high altitude is considerable, as well as the work clearing toxicity around mines. Are those things that you have put into formats that we can share, that people can, how many of those have you put into a way that we can show what you have learned?
I mean, so basically, so definitely like all the Walipinas, this is very accessible, like we can share it around. Like,
yes, everything.
Après, est-ce qu'on a des techniques ou des choses qu'on a formatées d'une manière qu'on peut genre donner à plus de gens pour qu'ils puissent réutiliser? Est-ce que c'est des techniques qui peuvent être réutilisables ailleurs?
Oui, oui.
I mean, we have numerous different kinds of things.
We have a book of therapy because with all the children, everything was important to do, but all is supported by love, because I was living with them, I was sleeping with the children, I was eating with them, I was not in the hotel, I didn't earn one money during 12 years, at the beginning, and I have like other people, I have a minimum salary, here. So I think the honesty, the commitment, and the way to have good communication between people, to express, to have many ways to play with the children so they can go on with their creativity, and they can imagine things that are not normal for the adults. But with this, for example, Lake Titicaca, it was terrible to live in the mines. I saw so many children die. In the street in La Paz, it was terrible also because they were sleeping outside. And I remember one child told me, my fear is to die and nobody will know it. Because I have no paper, I have no name, I don't know what I am, And one day I say, okay, we go to the Lake Titicaca, and with big bus, we take with 30 children. And we went to the Lake Titicaca to see the beauty. And when we were just passing la tranca, como on dit, la douane.
The border, like the checkpoint.
The checkpoint. And a little girl was going outside, and what are you doing? I can make up. And she was buying ice cream, but inside she was cutting the ice cream in 30 pieces for everybody. So you see, it's always like this. The tone and the template is just to believe that it's possible to share everything and to be one. And in the Lake Titicaca, we have a nice film. We will send you a film, and you see the children. First day they are. What are you doing today? It's the first day where I was playing. They were saying. So it's all this construction, this education, with art, with love, with the beauty, and now with trees, because they have two friends, and I think in Lake Titicaca, it's our next meeting. Because I would like to, we will go to have a film with Arte, with big chain.
With big TV.
Big TV would like, but not a documentary about Voix Libres only, but something that can be shared and to have prices, I hope, just because it's a world of solutions, I am like you. I don't like to speak and to explain because they don't understand. But I see a problem, there is a solution immediately today, just in the minute, You need something. For example, I was with a policeman yesterday. Okay, you are very useful, but now each one can plant trees, because you can't be murderers if you plant trees, and you must be soft, and you will learn to be better with your children if you plant trees, if you better the world, if you better the nature, the Pachamama is respected,
And with regards to the education, and I can hear many different subjects or things that you're bringing into the education. Well, I'd be interested just to hear a little bit about that kind of process of reconnecting with ancestral crops, and also in Africa, the Moringa and the Artemisia. It's incredibly profound, that relationship with the plant kingdom and that kind of reconnection. I'd just love to hear a little bit about, because obviously there's a lot of teaching that maybe relates to writing or reading or traditional mathematics, those sorts of things, but which obviously that area, the Inca civilization, extraordinary wealth of mathematics in the past. So I'm just wondering how you're exploring the relationship with what you're teaching, with also the sort of indigenous wisdom or the relationship with plants, and how you're finding that.
So I think it goes through different levels. I mean, so very concretely, so through the school supplies that we give to the children, there are books that are all made by Voix Libres as well. And in the books, there are stories of like caring, of like nonviolence, of prevention, etc. A lot of story, like different kind of like tales and stories. That is a way for them to understand different notions of nonviolence and the protection of their own environment. So there's all that level in school. So because school is free in Bolivia, but they don't give the school supplies. So for us to do this, there's a way for us to impact the whole education of the child in a very personal way, because in the book it's going to be there and it's going to be something following them throughout their school like path. So there's that. And then I think in terms of like every time we go through like microcredits or trainings for the women, every time we give some support, it's about training in a way that they can become independent. It's never trying to create those ties of dependence again, but just really trying to make them independent. And through this, we always try to relate that to their own understanding of their ground and like the environment they're in. And it depends on the training for sure, but like whenever it's environment or agriculture, we really try. And it's also a thing of we're in such a globalized world where we have to make profit, and I mean for sure it impacts everyone. So how do you explain that actually no, pesticides that way or overgrowing this kind of food or overdoing this is actually not going to be a sustainable way of seeing things? That's also part of our process of like going through these different steps and looking at different options that were, like you're saying, like they were there. Like it's just that for some reason some things have, I mean numerous reasons that we know about, but have disappeared. And so it's a process of going back to what they can relate to and what actually makes sense in a cultural and a more like
And which languages are those books in, and are you thinking of making them available in other languages?
I mean the school supplies are in on les en quechua et en les livres d'école quechua, espagnol.
Espagnol, oui, bilingue, on est, puis bien sûr bilingue.
In Bolivia it's quechua and Spanish, but that's more and the Aymara, school supplies, and Aymara, different regions. That's more like the tales for the kids and everything. I don't know if we actually have a book of, est-ce qu'on a vraiment une formation d'agriculture pour, so what we do is that we bring in professionals from like in Bolivia that will go and train the women, etc. I'm not sure we have an actual. It's more oral tradition. It's more oral transmission.
Oral and with the example, because I was living with them, and Enrique told me the other day, but at 5 o'clock, he's calling me, the children in the morning, and say, but you must sleep, my dear. No, we follow your example. You were the last in bed and the first up. So, when you live and we sleep with them and you give everything you have, they have this generosity. For example, I put water drinkable in a place, and they say, okay, we have drinkable water, but the neighbors have not. We must put here for them. Imagine. So you want to make microcredits, okay, microcredit, but you must transmit your sabiduría, como dices. La sabiduría, la sagesse.
Wisdom.
Your wisdom to 3 persons. So everything will be very quick with the trees now, because it's just an epidemic, because they see
Good
and,
type.
and it's incredible because they are creating lanks in places where it's 4,000 meters where there is nothing, but they are sure it will work, and it works, you know, because children have no limits. They say, okay, it will work because I protect him. We put a little thing very near from the wall, and it's very nice to see that this new relation between nature that is immense, you know, and to stop with a human world so limited.
And I think
And
also,
sorry.
just another point, like I mean, obviously most of these people are also illiterate, so it's complicated to just rely on books or, you know, forms or like that. So that's what Marijn is saying. It's basically, it's more the transmission of the values of solidarity that then turn into something very concrete, but it's not based maybe on the formal kind of teaching through.
And the transmission is not only oral, but it's not with words, but with silence, you know, because in all our centers, they have built little houses of silence, very, very nice, avec les toits en paille, tu vois, very traditional. And children can go and they stay and they meditate, they pray, they think, they do gymnastic, yoga, something inside, and they speak about the essential things, you know. And it's very important is to have a place where nobody can trouble your peace, you know, to know that you are in your inner church, in a house, you know.
And that you've brought that into being recognized by the judicial system in such a way as, and what was that process like to bring that forwards as a solution then that the judges could advocate that somebody would move and do this work, do that deeper work in the Men of Peace?
I mean, I think it started mainly with this first collective of women that I just kind of talked about quickly, called Women of Fire. So they were women that were victim of abuse, really almost feminicides, that got together, and especially with Mercedes Cortez that we saw on one of the pictures during the communication, who grew up with her father in the prison. She was one of the leaders. So as a lawyer, she really managed to gather all these women together, and they would do huge amount of advocacy work. They would go and shout in front of the different courts of justice. They would go to like different lawyers. They made a lot of like they were really visible. They made themselves visible for once, and they made like public performances in the street, and it really like suddenly this problem of feminicide is that it's seen as such a personal issue. It's in the household, so it's not public. It's not a violence that you see in the street. So they brought it to the streets. They made it visible. They shouted out. They made their voices heard, like Voix Libres again. And that really clicked. And then we had 2 laws passed thanks to the advocacy work of Voix Libres and other organizations and collaborations that they did. The law 248, non, c'est quoi la loi 248? 358, the new law 348, that is for protection of women and children, recognizing different stages of abuse. Yeah, by the Legislative Assembly that was adopted. So it was a process. It was, you know, getting visible, then getting laws into place. And then once the laws were into place, it kind of builds up a system that actually has to be more in touch with those issues. And then it was about the visibility of the work that we were doing, and especially for Mercedes Cortez, and then getting into the judicial system. Marijn has also worked in prisons for quite a while. That's something we should have talked about as well. Bringing microcredits to prisons. So what happens in Bolivia is that
7 prisons.
In 7 prisons, yeah. I mean, yeah, 7 prisons. Basically, when men are put into prisons, the families suffer the most because the mother ends up with all the kids, no entry of money. The men don't have any food or anything brought to the prison, so the women have to go feed the men. So there's this huge kind of unbalance where it's actually the children and the women outside that end up suffering the most. The men inside, it's just a huge courtyard. There's nothing to do. They're not really learning anything or processing anything that's happened. Most of them are put there also with no justification. Like there's 8 years of delay in judicial procedures. So it's extremely complicated. What Marijn has done is she's gone to those prisons has actually made those prisoners sing. We'll send you some videos later, but you see those prisoners and murderers actually sing and decide very clearly saying, okay, I want to change. So there were different, she made like a different writs where they would wash their hands to really say, okay, I'm getting rid of this violence. I'm becoming somebody new. Yeah, she actually brought all the plastic jugs, and like everyone were actually washing their hands.
Washing the violence,
washing
and
the
blood.
violence.
And all the prisons were meditating 15 minutes in silence, just praying to reflect. And what did you do? It's finished now. If you want to be a man of peace, okay. If you go on with a murderer, I go. I don't stay with murderer, but I know you are a man of peace. And the silence was total with 500 prisoners. And they were all like this, with crying and with the hands. Because what is doing the violence? The hands, because they beat till the death, the wives, But afterwards, we begin a group with 40 men of peace,
And also having microcredits for these men. So instead of having prisons where the men didn't really do anything, it's also because the system kind of allowed it, but they became like huge, like carpentry workshops and things. And so they would, through the microcredits, they would buy the wood, work the wood, be trained, get a certificate of training afterwards. That didn't mention that they were in prison, so that when they would get out, they would actually have an opportunity of getting a job. And then what happened is that you go to the prison, and in front of the prison, there's like loads of different furniture there. And so people sell it for them and then get
big enterprise.
It's a huge enterprise. And that way they can send their kids to school, feed the wives can,
and
get food
lawyer.
and pay the lawyers. And so it's actually changing the whole dynamic. So it's really interesting. We're still giving microcredits there, and that it's been like an amazing result as well. So it's been different steps, and it's taken time for sure. Like it's after 30 years that, we're talking about training police and army and getting those structural changes, but it's happening.
And I can't help but ask why you, in your feeling of the relationships in that landscape and in that culture and cultures, why you think that the sort of violence towards women and children had become so serious, or has become?
In all countries, poor countries, it's like this. It's terrible in Kivu, it's terrible in Cameroon, it's terrible in India, In Mexico, you have 10 feminicide each day, 10 women. So we say, last year, for example, we say 100,000 women murdered by their love, But it's just incredible, And we have 1% of women that are
Killed?
That kill a man. Or if they do, if most of the time it's just to protect the children, So it's an error of the heaven to give so much testosterone to the men, I think. It's terrible, we have no solution, just to work with them, that they abandon this male aspect, bad aspected,
Yeah, but one can't help but feel like in some way the fact that there's so much of it is an indication of a level of harm that has been done to the masculine, because that's not it. That's, it's not just men. It's that's something when the man has been treated or educated in a way that makes it seem like that's who he is.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me anyway, patriarchy and the very violence of it is related to the more global system that is based on colonialism, and that is still what, the fundamental, like you're saying, like the way it's hurt people to the very fundamental of their souls, of their culture, of everything that we were talking about.
But women also.
But women also. But it creates
kill.
those. Yeah.
Because we are reflecting. I was speaking about this with the group, the telephone yesterday. why so much violence? And they say, yes, colonization, alcohol, and all the dynasties, you know. Yes, but women don't kill. They must express their violence, killing the women, and it's just a world tradition. That's why we attack the problem in the root, to see the causes of this, and to see, we can say we have transformed this year 2,000 men. It's nothing, but it's a lot, because we had not imagined we can succeed in this, you know.
It's extraordinary. I know that there's all sorts of different places and questions and also kind of relationships with the minerals and the metals that have been mined themselves, which I find really interesting in these both in Bolivia and Congo. But I think I better pause for a moment and just check in with Tara time-wise, and also you know, be aware that we're probably sort of moving towards trying to wrap up. Tara, what's your...
Well, I do want to make sure that we cover, for the network who's watching this, how can they get involved? I know I saw two things on your website. One was sponsoring children and seniors, and then the other is that you actually sell the clothes, that absolutely gorgeous poncho you're wearing. You know, where can our network learn more about what you do and find your shop and, you know, check out the sponsor, you know, child or senior?
I mean, so there's everything on the website. There is an English version of it as well. We have all our publications, the last newsletters with, we have a newsletter almost every month, we will send it through as well, where we really target the most essential projects we're on right now, and what is the most important and emergent, like urgent needs. There's that, but then there's, like you're saying, all the rest, everything from all the art craft that we sell, etc., is direct impact as well. Mostly, I mean, it is like we were saying, the cities of goodness. So these homes, these refuge for children that have seen the most horror and lived through horrible, really terrible abuse. Yeah, like Marianne's just telling me that we have another little boy who just saw his mum got killed like yesterday. Yeah, it was just in front of him, and so basically, of course, like all the becoming like a godfather, godmother, like supporting these children throughout like a monthly donation or something is huge. It has a real impact for them to be able to go through school, to make sure that they keep healthy, especially with the pandemic. You can imagine it makes those situations even more exacerbated. So it's a whole level that can really, it's direct impact. So you can find all that on the website, and of course you can email us. We'd be happy to, you know, get in touch and have a further discussion with anyone who wants to, you know, get in touch with us. And yeah, if they need more information on different programs, it's also possible to pay for microcredit for women, for instance, if you feel like that's something that makes sense, where, you know, like I was saying, for trees, for planting trees, for getting out of a situation of violence and restarting a new life connected with her environment. That's also something we really do and need. So there's many different levels people can get.
But I would be very happy if you can help us to have a true strategy, management of strategy for systematization of how to duplicate the plantation of trees, you know, because we are all school, all communes. We have more than 100 journalists that are giving our information. But tomorrow, if we phone with Maevia in Bolivia, we do a meeting. In 3 days, we have a strategy, how to speak to the communes, how to speak to the politics, how to speak at the television, because we are at television and radio each week. We are very known, you know, in Bolivia. So it's possible to be very quick to help people to transmit our way to transform the nature, the Pachamama, you know.
Yes, it's not just, sorry, I would say it's not just the financial donation, but if there's people out there that have ideas or contacts or resources that they could assist you with this, just the sheer amount of amazing work that you do. I'm just so grateful that you were doing what you were doing, that you exist. And I'm actually thinking we need to start have a conversation after this call about an alliance with them, Susie.
Thank you. This is Sergio. He's leaving.
Sergio, he was 3 times in Bolivia, and my assistant is fantastic.
Sorry about that.
Susie, did you have something you wanted to share?
Oh, well, I mean, there are some conversations that would be nice to have when we finished the recording. I think in terms of the duplication of trees, I think that's, you know, it would be interesting to explore which methods that you're currently working with, and if there are any support that could also benefit, you know, if there's any other methods that have been successful that it would be helpful to know about, and if there's any documentation or, you know, the kind of things that would be helpful for you to be able to distribute. So those are conversations I think maybe that we could have.
Yeah.
Je pense que c'est de nouveau dans cet objectif. It's always in this view from the deepness of the being, you know. And we are a tree of life, you know, with all steps inside. And you are women, and we are women, and we know this. And it's respecting this that afterwards all the work is doing very quickly, because if they know they are trees and they are plants and they are sacred to life, so that's the condition to succeed and to give life to the trees. And they were so destroyed, but the women and the trees, they were so destroyed, but they ignored that we were seeds and forests, you know.
Well, I was going to ask you for.
Yeah, no, that's a really beautiful. Just write that down.
Yes,
because you can't imagine our solitude. And I'm very happy to have Maivia that stays here, because she's studying so many things and video, and she will do more with the nature. But I am all day long with Mercedes and all the teams, and they see each day. I photographies I don't want to send you, but yesterday we have a woman, she had the bones in 5 pieces in the face, and she's red and she's in blood. And each day we are saving these women, giving them a new hope with microcredits, with trees, with the flowers, with the plants, with helping her to educate the children. But it's very difficult because we are just in first step to the violence, to the machismo, and we need to be in. I had met Vandana Shiva, and I was very, very happy because I had conference in big congress, and she was here. So I invite her to speak with us and to see. I give her many presents and everything. And I told, but it's not difficult, please, Vandana Shiva. We can organize a world team of women that want to create new values and a new nature and recuperate all the stuff of women, but also the stuff of nature, because it's just one. But she was not interested. She was not interested.
Well, I mean, I hear her having spoken to that. I just wonder if the work that she has in her hands is so great that she has a need to kind of hold that piece of work. I mean, now that it's moving forwards with the pace of change and the level of the aggression and a global level towards crops and towards mining, I feel like, you know, she has her mission, and she is sort of uniquely trained to deliver on that. And when I hear you speak, I also feel myself being like, why aren't we doing that? Before you said it, like, you know, I can feel the simplicity and the beauty of the way that you have worked and what is possible. And I think what you've done, and being able to hear about it is, you know, it feels like it changes me very deeply to know that that's happened. And I am really enormously grateful for hearing and also for all of your work.
Thank you. Same for us.
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
we're really
Thank you
grateful
so
for you
much.
too. Thank
You are
you.
beautiful, and I'm very happy to imagine a world alliance with you, and to contaminate all women of the world together. Okay, I am
Yes,
at your service, and I can come to. We can come to you. We can let's sing the world. Let's sing all the trees.
yes. Thank you so very much. I genuinely appreciate it. I just feel such a strong resonance with everything you said and who you are and what you're doing. It's just so beautiful. And we're so grateful. And I honestly feel this is one of my most important talks I've had. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for
And
joining us on this.
Yes, thank you to exist.
Yeah.
Yes, we are fantastic, and we are in contact. And
yeah, we'll stay in contact.
give us our. T'as tous les numéros de téléphone, tout ça, les mails?
Well,
let me-
Tara, are you looking to
I
stop
put
the recording? She wants to
yes,
stop
and
the
then we will
recording.
have a little conversation.
So if you stay
thank
there for a
everyone.
moment and then.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah. Well,
And we will add all your information on the website for people who, and your videos, and yes.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take
Oh, no,
care.
you yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.